I'm here at Today Dental, ready to talk with my friends Ryan and Mike. And they've built an amazing business and now have a growing chain of dental offices. And I know it's a little bit different than what we usually talk on this channel, which is e-commerce, but entrepreneurship definitely rings true to these guys, and they're entrepreneurs at heart. So I'm excited to talk with them and learn from them, and I hope you guys like it. I'm here at Today Dental. I was thinking that like people doing e-commerce would probably think like this has nothing to do with me. How am I ever gonna learn? But in my mind, like just like we were saying, like every business to me has those same like foundational principles. Yeah. And I think it's gonna be interesting to see if we pull those same principles out from you guys today, seeing what you guys built, and then I think those gold nuggets and those lessons that you've had and the challenges that you've kind of overcome, I think they're going to be super valuable to anybody watching this who wants to start a business. Maybe people getting into dentistry, but my thought is like, just in general.
There's definitely some crossover because I think when I watch some of your other videos of the e-commerce stuff, it's definitely applicable to my business as a dentist. So there's crossover with that for sure.
But before we get into the dentistry, let's go all the way back, because Today Dental, you guys now have how many locations?
10 locations, should have another 3 in the next
soon to be 13 locations, which is huge. But go all the way back, let's take it all the way back to like dental school, or even before then. Like, why did you guys even decide to be
good old
dentists?
Days.
Yeah, like how did you get into it? I was even thinking about this for my kids when they're telling me that their teachers are asking them what they want to be. Yeah. And they're like, a doctor or a firefighter or a policeman or a dentist. Yeah. And like, how did you guys get to that point where you're like, yep, I want to do dentistry?
We probably have different stories, honestly, on that.
You might have been indoctrinated since you could walk.
My dad was a dentist. His brother was a dentist, and out of the 5 kids, we're all dentists. So for us, it was, I think I always joke around, we were brainwashed at an early age. We didn't know anything else but dentistry. So growing up, I just assumed I was going to be a dentist. I mean, going into my dad's dental office, even kind of assisting, helping him on some procedures with family members and stuff. So
did you feel like that was like a pressure to be a dentist, or was it?
It was. There was some pressure for sure, but a good thing. And they used to always my parents would always counsel, if you end up not being a dentist, well, you've gotten the grades to become a dentist. You can usually kind of do just about anything at that point, or you've kind of excelled in a lot of things to get to that point anyway. So if dentistry is not your thing, then go find something else.
Or do dentistry and then do something on the side, because it's a good day job. Yeah. So then it gives you opportunities to branch out and do something else. Yeah. For me, I knew there was a couple things I liked. One is I like to work with my hands. And you see my garage, I'm like, I've got a little mini Home Depot in there. So I like to tinker around. So working with my hands is awesome. There's a little bit of like, engineering and artistic skills when you become a dentist, when you're forming teeth. The other thing is I like working with people, like having those one-on-one conversations with people. I'm a people person, so it's nice to be in a place and I get to communicate with the patients, have staff. I wouldn't work well if I was in a back office somewhere. And then I wanted to be a business owner. I knew that from the beginning. For the longest time, I wanted to be my own business owner. And as a dentist, you get that opportunity. It's pretty easy to become a business owner as a dentist.
The real reason he didn't is because he doesn't like writing. I remember when we first started as a company, he's like, the only reason I became a dentist is because I hate writing.
So I had a physics class, and I was always in the lab after hours trying to get the homework done because it was so hard. And I remember this kid, I was planning on being a doctor, wanted to go to medical school, and they have the MCAT that you have to take. It's the entrance exam. Yeah. And I hear this kid on like the other side of the lab, and he's like, that's why I'm going to dental school, because the dental admissions test doesn't have any physics on it. And I was like, I don't like physics, and I don't like writing. And I interviewed a dentist about writing for a writing assignment, and he's like, I write 15 minutes a week. And I was like, click. All these things are clicking like out of laziness. That's why I'm a dentist.
Yeah. Some bozo screams across the room, and that's what I became. So then you decide to be a dentist. So when you're in college though, you just go through regular 4 years, anything you want, or do you have to kind of take that the biology kind of track?
You have to get some science done. Yeah. You can do a business major, but you have to have, kind of a minor in science, or at least get the requirements done. It's a lot easier. I did developmental biology and physiology, so it was really easy because all the requirements were done through that. It also helped when I was taking the dental admissions test or getting into dental school, having taken a lot of biology, because that's what you do in the first couple of years of school.
Did you take any business then? I mean, it would help, right?
Yeah, so I kind of jumped around in college actually. So went into all the sciences, and then thought, maybe dentistry is not for me. That's not what I want to do. So I kind of started looking at law, marketing. I even took a bunch of marketing classes, just thinking, see if I can find something else. So I ended up taking some business classes because of that, but then ultimately came back to the sciences.
Got it. And then you finished college, and then dental school is how many years?
4 years.
4 years of dental school.
Yeah.
What does it cost to go to dental school?
That depends a lot if you get in-state tuition. For us, we went to Tufts out in Boston. It's a private school, so it was $400,000 for
4 years.
For 4 years, and that includes cost of living allowance they give you. If you go to an in-state school like Nevada, where I could have gone for half that probably. And then I know there's other schools in the Midwest that will do it for $20,000, $30,000 a year, so it's quite a bit less.
It does get pricey though.
That is expensive.
Yeah, and then if you want to specialize on top of it, if you want to become an orthodontist or something like that.
Well, then there's even more school.
Yeah, another 3 years of school.
Yeah. So you finished dental school, and then tell me how you guys met, because I feel like that's an interesting part of it, because having a co-founder, and I know there's more partners in your group besides you two, but how did you guys meet, and how did that come to come?
So I think it was just by total coincidence. Yeah. So we were moving into an apartment complex out in Boston, and
while you're at dental school.
At dental school, we were 2 days before dental school, maybe?
Yeah,
day or two before dental
moving
school.
in.
And we saw these guys in the hallway, him and his wife, and just stopped him and talked to him for a little bit. He had a shirt on that we recognized from Brigham Young University. Yeah. And so he said, "Hey, we're BYU fans too." And just so happened he was going to dental school, we were going to dental school. Yeah. So we just kind of lined it up and...
Yeah, out of the whole city of Boston, we could have moved anywhere, right. But we moved into the same apartment. It was kind of destiny,
So how did it evolve though? You have 4 years of dental school, and then are you thinking like, this is our master plan, like from year one, that, hey, you and me, we're doing dentistry, we're gonna eventually blow this thing up and start a whole bunch of dental offices? Or was it like just friends going through dental school?
I think originally, back then, and that was 10 years ago? 10 years ago, even for us, I don't think owning multiple practices was a gigantic thing, well known for everybody. Most of the time you go out, you work for somebody, and then you open up your own practice and have your one practice.
Corporate dentistry wasn't a huge deal, especially out in the East Coast where we were at.
Yeah. So I think initially, I would say we were both just probably thinking, hey, we're just going to study together, get through dental school, and then kind of do our own thing, open our own practices. But over the years in dental school, we started hearing about multiple practices, making it a business more than just owning your one practice. Yeah. And then we kind of started talking about it.
Yeah, we became pretty good friends, and our family, our spouses became friends. And we were pretty much connected at the hip at dental school. I remember it was weird when they didn't see us together. People were like, "Hey, where's your thing?"
So you finished dentistry school, and then you start. Where did you guys start? Did you start working for someone, or are you ready right out the gates?
We started out working for a corporate chain. So we had kind of strategized. By the time we finished dental school, we knew, hey, we're going to go open up practices together, multiple practices. So when we interviewed at different places, different states, just kind of depending on where we thought our families would do well, we said let's go to a corporate job that's going to teach us like how efficient corporate dentistry, like the efficiencies of dentistry, but then ask them not only the clinical stuff that we wanted to know because we were new dentists, but also say, hey, are you willing to teach us the business side of owning a dental office? And luckily we had your lab partner, a friend of ours at dental school. I
would say one of the big downsides to dental school is just packed with information. There's just so much that you need to know in the mouth. But the one thing they don't teach you is business at all. There's literally not. I think we had one business class that was optional at 7:00 at night for one semester. So we had no business experience. So in order for us to run multiple practices, really the best thing to do was to go work for somebody that had multiple practices. Yeah. And it worked out. We had a friend in the business that had 10 practices at the time. Yeah. He hired us. We both became associates in his offices, separate offices. But that's just how we started.
We were able to pick his brain. Ask him like, hey, just how do you run a practice? What's it take to get it going?
Right. And you're watching for it, right? You're in there, kind of like looking for those learnings, soaking that side in, and not just going through the motion. And that's what I'm talking about, is like dentistry or whatever, stuff that I did for e-commerce. People are like, how did you learn to source products? And how did you, I was like, I went and worked for someone and got the experience. And people are like, well, I don't want to go spend years doing it. It's like, well, how else are you going to learn?
It's an education.
It's definitely an education, that's for sure.
And also, you don't know what you don't know. So you think you can run a business, but man, I think looking back, we know so much more now than we knew even when we started. It's an education as you go.
Yeah. And it's not like it's rocket science to like start a business, but there's little tiny things that if you know, just make it so much easier. And you could learn those by being in the business. Right.
So you were working for this corporate office, kind of corporate dentistry, and learning, soaking it in. When do you pull the trigger? Like, when do you take the leap and say we're gonna go out on our own? Was it together at the same time, or was it one before the other, or how did you guys decide?
No, pretty much the same time. Yeah, we had kind of been it was about 2 years into it. We said, hey, we've got enough like experience under our belt. We wanted to learn the clinical side on someone else's dime, because as a new dentist, sometimes you kind of you make some mistakes and you want to be able to do that somewhere else instead of your own practice. Right. But yeah, 2 years into it, we were like, all right, let's do this. So we just started looking, and we actually found a kind of ingenious way to find offices that no one else was doing.
How was that?
So we cold called all the dentists in the whole Metroplex. We just paid someone. I think it was my niece and maybe your sister-in-law or something. Yeah. We paid them $10 an hour just to just send emails. And then we had this little template that would have a picture of us and say, hey, I'm looking to buy a practice. We don't want to use a broker, because obviously it's these older guys that want to sell their practices, they're much more likely to use someone that's not going to use a broker. Yeah. And we just kind of told our story of who we were, a young family looking to go out on our own. And it generated quite a bit of traction. Like, there was a lot of people like, yeah, I'm actually like coming up on retirement wanting to sell, or I know a buddy of mine that's wanting to. So that's how we found our first office.
Yeah, and I'd say that one of the nice things, I think one of the luxuries that we had was coming from a dental family. Like, we had my dad that helped us a lot. He had been through, and he's done other businesses too. So, business is business. Reading over a lease, understanding that kind of stuff. So he was able to kind of help us with that, which I would say for other people that are getting into stuff like that, you don't necessarily have to have a family member, but a good friend or someone that's willing to kind of mentor you or take you under their wing. Yeah, but I think that was a little, for us, we always kind of said that was a little bit of a security blanket that we had, knowing, hey, we can kind of go for it, and someone's there to say, hey, hold on, don't do that, or this is a better location, let me read through this. So it was nice having some kind of mentorship a little bit.
So you didn't build an office, you didn't start from scratch, you bought an existing.
Yeah, we wanted to have some cash flow right from the beginning, so we bought an office that was already, producing $500,000 or $600,000, I think, a year. And
we actually paid a ton for it. I mean, more than what we should have. The going rate's 60 to 80% of what they produce in a year, and I think we paid 100% or close to 100%. We were so anxious to get going and
so
get
like
rolling.
$500,000, around $500,000 to buy an existing dental practice.
I mean, basically. But a lot of times it's 60 to 80% of their last 3 years tax returns is what the valuation of a practice is when it's
on an annualized basis.
Yep. So look at last 3 years tax returns and then give it 60 to 80%. 80% if it's a newer office with lots of growth potential, or 60 if it's older equipment and doesn't have a lot of growth.
And so what was that year?
2014.
2014. And that was your first one. Do you rebrand it, or do you just go with it? You just keep it rolling?
We kept the same name, kept going with it, kept everything as much as we could. It was there was a lot of like roller coaster headaches at the beginning. I think there was definitely some mistakes we made. One is that the owner and his wife was the office manager, and then they had one assistant. And when we went in there, in the contract, you have to keep the office completely supplied all the way up until the day that you're gonna sell the practice. So we get in there and we're talking to him on day one, and I'm like, okay, so where's all your like dental drill bits? Where are those at the burrs? He's like, they're right there. I'm like, there's only 5. He's like, that's all you need. And a pack of like 100 is $20. I'm like, there should be like 1,000 of these in here. And they're all like rusted. And I was like, what the heck's going on here? Well, and he didn't have like an x-ray machine that we thought was in there. Like there was a lot of, he was rare. Yeah, he was pretty cheap on stuff. So we had to go in there and kind of update some things. And his wife, left. So I think the first day we had someone lined up that we had, hired on, but she.
Well, he hired her because the requirement was we had to have a functioning office to buy. And so he hired this girl. I'm sure it was just kind of haphazard, just whoever walks in the door, yeah, that sounds good. He's not relying, he doesn't need to rely on that person at all. So he got somebody in there, and then we took over the practice. And I think in the first, week and a half, I think she stole a whole bunch of cash from us.
Our first $20 bill that we ever got, she stole it. We're like, but what's worse?
How do you know it was your first $20 bill?
Because we wanted to frame it. We wanted
to. Exactly. We had
like you stole the sentimental value right from under me.
I know, seriously. Well, the story gets kind of more, I guess, worse for us because even after all this happened, we were so desperate because I remember at one point I was like making phone calls. We brought Cher down, my wife, to help answer calls, and she was gone for like a week. And she texted back or something, and we were like, "Please come into work." We were so desperate just to have a body in there to like check a patient in, I mean, she didn't last that long. We were able to.
But there was a time where he was the office manager, I was the dentist, he was the hygienist, I was the assistant. I mean, you were just doing whatever you could. And we didn't even know half the time what we were doing. We were collecting money that we.
But it was fun, man. I feel like that was so fun. Like it was a blast. You're just kind of out there doing it, and it's dentistry's pretty safe bet, going into it. So you feel like it's somewhat secure.
So from your first, you bought your first one, you overpaid for it, you're wearing all the hats, you're realizing that you just got to do what you got to do to make it work. You get your first $20 bill stolen from you, but you keep going. When do you start expanding? Like how does that, talk me through how you guys are thinking about going from that one office in 2014 to almost, on pace to do 13 offices now. How do you think through that?
Yeah, to me, I think it was a pretty rocky road. I mean, I think in our minds, we had seen who we worked for do it, and it looked so easy. So we came into it thinking, hey, well, in two weeks, we'll have this thing up and going, and we'll jump to the next one. It wasn't like that at all.
He had 10 when we started, and 2.5 years later, like 30 or 40. So we're like, this is... Yeah, he really kind of hit a point where he was just growing exponentially.
I think for us, again, that might have played a little bit with my dad. While we were doing the dentistry and kind of trying to just get our feet underneath us, understanding everything that there is with the business, he was looking for another practice for us. And so again, that kind of helped us. We gave the green light. We actually designed the second one, and that was us. And I think that was kind of a big mistake too. We had a gigantic space.
Adding all this like nice fancy glass in there, and the builder, the contractor came in, and he would always say, "You're doing multiple offices, right?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "I promise you, this first one you're going to go all out, put like nice furniture in there, nice cabinetry, sinks, and then your second you're going to like just cut it all down to like."
How much did you guys spend on that first one? Do you remember how much you put into it?
I think it was $450 or $500 to get it to build.
Yeah. And was that way more than you like?
We've cut it down probably a 75 to 100,000. From there.
So
it's about
a big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And there is a big range just in dentistry in general. If someone's going in as a private practice, they're putting in tons of, way more than what we would.
800,000. If you notice in here, there's not a lot of sinks in between. There's not a lot of cabinetry. Some have cabinetries all along, which is really expensive. Right. We do cart, like our nitrous, our gas, it's on a cart instead of plumbed in all the operatories. There's a lot of things you can cut out that don't make any difference. One of the things we do is like, our model is, you can buy a chair for $10,000 and it's real comfortable. It's got, a little massage thing, or you can buy one for $2,500 and give them a $12 neck pillow. And that's actually better because they're sitting there and they're like, "Oh, this is," and you're like, "Oh, let me give you a neck pillow." It's like it's an add-on that's, noise canceling headphones. You can make it a really cool office with very little cost. Put a TV. A TV's like, everyone walks in, we got TVs on the ceiling and on the walls. Someone walks in, it's like, "Whoa, there's TV on the ceiling here?" Well, it's like $80 TV. It's like not, So there's things like that make huge differences that people, a heated blanket, like noise canceling, those things are the things that just people are like, wow, this is, my last dentist didn't do any of this. Yeah. But that dentist spent $12,000 on their chair. We spent 25.
Yeah, just going above and beyond in ways that don't impact your bottom line as much.
Yeah. And I say going back to growing, we were wanting to grow as fast as we could. I think things always take longer than you think. But because we had two of us, we really almost needed two practices to even just pay for a salary for each of us. So we were pretty motivated. Do you know when we got Crowley? When did we get?
Yeah, I think it was just probably a year after that.
A year later.
And the good thing about that is we were, at least your dad had advised us when we got bank loans for doing stuff to have one person on the bank loan, one person on the entity, because obviously if we both tied our name to it, then they have certain requirements that you have to hit before you can get a second loan. For us, we were able to get loans, at least 2 loans to buy 2 practices. Yeah. And our second office was a startup, so that was easier to get with having 2 of us on separate loans.
So then you've kind of gone on pace to scale. You're figuring that how to kind of open these offices, getting better with the numbers, not spending too much on crazy expensive stuff on each one. What are some of those like growth pains that you have experienced as you've scaled? Because I think a lot of companies have that hard, to get over that hump. I think there was like a book that talked about it being like I don't know if they call it the messy middle or if it's just kind of like that lull of trying to get through from just the grind startup phase where you're wearing a lot of hats to then trying to get to scale. Like what are those challenges? How did you guys?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is when we were working in the offices as the owner dentist, actual practicing, the staff, they got to know us, they got to know our vision, and it was easier to maintain and retain staff. They liked working with us, they liked being part of Today Dental, and they had that vision. As soon as we kind of started to expand past 2, well, now it's a satellite location, and you have to exert more effort to try to show them what the vision is, get to know us, and that we noticed that got harder and harder to try to maintain that vision when people that had never even met the owners or maybe met us for 10 minutes, understood what our whole philosophy was. Yeah. So keeping that kind of culture was much harder.
So how do you guys work on it now in terms of trying to keep that vision together with all these different locations? With how many staff do you have total now?
About 80, 82.
So 80 people. How do you keep it together?
I mean, it all started with one, right? I mean, the first time we hired, I guess aside from assistants and front office, but I think our big move staff-wise was hiring our first associate.
That was huge.
That was a big move because now for the first time we're making money off of what somebody else is doing.
Got it. So describe what an associate is. So
another dentist.
Okay.
That's not an owner dentist.
Okay.
So hiring a dentist that we're now no longer in the office. We're in this office working while he's making money in another office for us. And I remember that was a big move for us, but it comes with its own headaches. But I think that's part of the growing pains, right? Is just trying to understand what they need, what's going to keep them in our office, what's going to keep them happy, but also make the business money. Yeah. That was big for us. I don't know. That was a tough one.
Sales and marketing, when it comes to dentistry and your growing practice of now, soon to be 13 offices, how do you guys think about the sales and marketing side of it now that you're not, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not in the mouth doing dentistry work much anymore these days, huh? And so with associates doing a lot of the work, team of 80 people kind of all taking care of things, what do you guys do to focus on sales and marketing to make sure, or what's needed in a dentist practice?
Yeah, as far as marketing goes, it's actually pretty simple on the dental side because there aren't that many options, to be totally honest. It's not like the e-commerce side where there's just all types of ways to capture a new client or new customer. So for us, it pretty much boils down to, there's a little tiny bit of money spent on actual mailers that go out to people's homes. That could be like a Valpak or Money Mailer or some kind of, coupon book. Just your traditional like standard SEO, so trying to get in the organic search. When someone types in dentist near me, you show up in what we call the snack pack, which is that first 3 of the map. That's huge, and that's paying a SEO company to do that. Currently, we pay someone, I think it's $5,000 a month to do that for our whole company. And then the biggest thing is going to be Google AdWords pay-per-click. and we'll spend quite a bit on that.
Roughly how much do you guys spend?
Anywhere from 30 to 40,000 a month on pay-per-click. And we've noticed it costs us about $200 or less to bring in a patient through a Google AdWord click, and we can usually on a new patient or a new patient coming in, we can get, an average of $500 or $600 for that kind of initial appointment on average. But then a dental patient over their lifetime is worth $12,500 over their lifetime.
As long as you retain them.
As long as you retain them.
Sure.
So you can kind of see the numbers there. It makes sense to how much money to put into marketing. It's a very inexpensive way to market. A lot of dentists aren't doing it. They're still doing the back of coupons, or there's still some that are yellow pages.
Yellow pages, yeah, get all yellow.
So
I think one thing also that helps for us, we have four owners, so we kind of all have different strengths. Yeah. My youngest brother, I feel like I'm the old timer. I am the old timer in the group actually. But my youngest brother, he's into Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a huge help to have him come in. We weren't really doing Facebook at all, and I know Facebook's probably a lot cheaper than Google.
Just depends, I think.
Depends on what you're doing, yeah. But he runs the Facebook stuff. He does TikToks. We do a lot of smile makeovers, and so we're doing videos for that. We have a lot of videos up on TikTok, and Chad's always talking about, we got this many followers, we got this many people, that I don't even know what he's talking about half the time. But it is nice to have four owners that are all fully invested, that all have kind of different strengths to pull from. And marketing, I think, has benefited a lot because of that.
Yeah, and not only marketing, social media for us, I think the benefit of that, I never even dreamed it was possible, is one, it presents our culture to potential future employees. Like, there's been I think pretty much every employee we have now pretty much has been like, hey, I saw you guys on TikTok, I saw what you guys are doing, you guys just sound like you're the best company in the Metroplex. And I think we are. And that tells that story in a way that we never could. It's awesome. I just did an interview today where she's like, you guys just look like you're the best company. Like, I love you guys. And I'm like, she saw some video on Instagram, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
I think that's super applicable to any company.
Yeah.
Using that, people think why would I do TikTok? But that, to me, I never even thought about that. How you could use that to build company culture, to hire new talent, and maybe even retain talent.
Yes.
Right? To be able to have them be a part of this thing and feel that connection. Yeah.
Because we do a lot. You probably saw our orange and blue shoes.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, we can tell you a little bit about that in a little bit, but that's part of our culture and our brand, and how we get back to the community. But yeah, social media has made it so for existing and future potential staff, it's a way that we never, before, that was our biggest problem, is how do we get our culture and our vision out to all of these locations and employees. A memo can't do it. Yeah. Stop by the office for 10, 20 minutes. We do company outings. We're going to do a big kickball tournament this next week. We're trying to do
Six Flags.
We're trying to do Ranger Stadium, but
bowling. I don't know. It's something to make it fun,
right,
for sure.
Yeah, but this is a way where people can see it on their phone. People are always on there, checking stuff, so it kind of presents who we are.
Yeah, so culture-wise, we were talking about retaining talent. What are some things that you guys are doing to build that culture? I know you guys have the different colored shoes. We mentioned that. Is that something that you're doing for the community, or how does that kind of build into what you guys are?
Yeah, so everyone in our company wears orange and blue shoes. We have scrubs that have a patch on there with an orange and blue shoe. It's our way of supporting the Scottish Rite Hospital. So, kind of a little story. When we were coming out of dental school, my wife and I, we were having our third kid, and she came out. We had our baby girl, and she was born with a club foot, so her foot was kind of turned inward a little bit. We were dirt poor. We'd borrowed money from my parents to even get, pay for the deposit and rent and all that kind of stuff. So when they sent us to a specialist to fix our daughter's foot, that was stressed the heck out of me. We had no money. Going to a specialist, which always costs a ton of money. Anyway, they took us to the Scottish Rite Hospital, and everything was paid for. Tons of volunteer work. We had casts and braces and tons of doctor visits. And nothing. We didn't pay a dime for any of that. So
I remember you telling me that story when you were there. You were thinking this is going to cost this is going to I'm going to go broke after this.
Yeah, we had nothing.
And then when you asked them, they're like, it's all for free.
Oh, I kept asking him. I was all about the money. So I'm like, how much is it going to cost? Like, nothing. I'm like, all right. And then they'd tell me something else. We need a brace. I'm like, how much is that going to cost? Nothing.
So this is your way of giving back.
Yeah. So we came out of that experience, and I remember even walking out of the hospital for the last time, and everything was fixed on our daughter. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, right now we're dirt poor, but it would be awesome once we get a little more established, once we get on our feet, it'd be awesome to give back to something like the Scottish Rite Hospital. Yeah. So now, 10 practices, coming up on 13. Yeah. We've kind of incorporated that into our culture, and you'll see. You can see this here.
We have little cards. Like when I'm at the Walmart grabbing groceries on my way home, someone's like, "Hey, do you get dressed in the dark? You're colorblind?" And I'm like, "No." So I have a little card that I give them, and it tells them how they can volunteer and get involved because they need volunteers there to help out with. They do company events where they have we do this with our office. We'll come there and they set up activities and crafts for the kids. They need people to help check people in and out. They just need help. So we are always talking it, blasting it out. We cross promote whenever we do a community event. We're talking about it. So it's
we do little fundraisers for them, and it's just it does two things for us. One, it's our way of kind of being bigger than just a small little dental office, and then it's just another way to give back in the culture. It's really become kind of like a part of the culture in the company.
Everybody loves numbers, so let's dive into the numbers. I actually just wanted to first start with, because I thought when I was going through all my stuff, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just be a dentist and just have because it seems like dentists only work a couple days a week. They come in, they look, and they say everything looks good, see you in 6 months, and then they, in my mind, take home a paycheck. Yeah. How much does an average dentist make? Just maybe coming out of dentistry school, couple years out, what does a dentist make on average in terms of a salary?
A dentist is going to be between 150 and 170 is a new dentist.
150, 170, is that?
Yeah.
And then does it progress from there? Yeah. Just kind of linear from inexperience wise? Like where does
how it works with dentists is you get your first job and you're going to negotiate a contract that's going to be based on a production or a collections based kind of system. So in Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's going to be anywhere from 25 to 30% of what you produce. So if you go in there and you do $2,000 a day, you're going to get 25 or 30% of that. 25 for newer doctors and 30 for kind of more experienced ones. And that pretty much stays kind of the same throughout your career. So you can kind of work your way up to 30. You just get more experience, and that allows you to produce more because you can see more patients, you can do bigger procedures, you start implementing implants and wisdom teeth, things that you weren't doing when you were younger. And a lot of times, and for us, if we've got more experienced doctors, we're putting them in offices that are a lot busier.
Yeah. So what is kind of the high end of a dentist who's really experienced?
I'd say between $300,000 and $500,000 for an experienced dentist.
And then let's talk about opening up dental offices. When you think of maybe the industry or the kind of path that you guys are on, what's your goal in terms of one office? What kind of production can it do, and how much money can one office make?
Yeah, I think we mentioned earlier, it usually takes us about $450,000 to build an office. There is a little bit of a ramp up process as far as getting it busy enough, producing enough, collecting enough to actually break even. But usually we want that office hitting over $1 million in collection, in revenue.
1.2 is kind of like the golden number.
Yeah. Golden meaning, is that the break-even number, or is it that's what's?
No, break-even's probably 50 to 60,000
a month.
Yep. So that's kind of your break-even. Once you get past that, obviously it's the amount of profitability is just a lot more. So if you get to 1.2, that's kind of like a good healthy number where I don't know what you're taking home as far as profit goes.
Quite a bit, but we've seen offices get as high as $2-3 million in a practice. It kind of depends on how many operatories we have, and we kind of have our own system as what we're looking for, how many operatories we want in a dental office. But there's some dental offices they've got 30 operatories and they're producing $4 or $5 million in revenue. So you really can grow it however you want. It's really whatever your business model is.
Yeah. And so profit margin wise, when it comes to, as you guys are thinking about this, as you grow out to 13 offices, is there a number in your head or kind of a benchmark where you need, or a level industry-wide that there's a profit margin that is a healthy profit margin? Is there a range there? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think are you talking more about like an individual office or kind of as a company overall?
Yeah, maybe as a company overall.
Yeah. So for that, you're looking at after. That's a good question too.
But the more the better. So the answer is like as much as possible.
So I think it's if you're doing 1.2 million, you should profit about 250,000 for an office. It's kind of this is doing well.
Right.
So that's kind of where you would be at if you were.
Yeah, definitely. As you get a bigger company, we have call center, we have an insurance team, we have upper management. So there's a lot of kind of these umbrella costs that are factored into every office. I think if you were a private practice, you could get your overhead down to what, like 60%, 55%.
Yep.
With a bigger company, we're seeing overhead go up to 70, 75%.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things because we still are friends with our previous employer, and they had hundreds of offices now. And I remember he told me, he's like, you may not want to grow as much as I've grown because it takes me 10 offices to equal the same amount of profit that I did with one office when I first started. So it grows into such a big corporate machine. You've got, 5 attorneys now. You've got just every person that you have to have that just sucks the money out of the individual offices. So I'm not sure what their profit margins are, but I think a healthy number is, if you've got 10 offices doing 1.2, you're going to take profit 2.5.
You guys have grown an amazing business. I think watching you guys we've known each other for years, and knowing that you started and now you're into the double digits, heading into the double digits, soon to be 13 offices. I think you guys are on a great path. And it's easy to look in business, right? The numbers to kind of see, I have one office, now I have 13 offices, and it feels like you're heading in that right direction. But if you kind of pull yourself away from your business, where it's easier to kind of judge quote unquote business success, when you pull yourself away from your business, just in life in general, how do you guys define success?
Oh, we both value family time like crazy. So I think where we can work how we want to work, but then also have the time for family, I would say that's a huge win for me.
Yeah, definitely a family. On the personal side, it's definitely the relationships we have with our family and having the time to spend with them. I mean, the currency of today is time. It's not money. I think from the business side, the success is, did we grow something that gave people a good place to work where they could enjoy working and we treated them fairly? I think our philosophy is, hey, we're not going to grow to 50 offices in 2 years, because our model is, let's just be the hometown guy that's going to be honest. So all of our doctors are those type that they're going to only do the treatment that's necessary. We're not trying to just maximize your insurance. We're fair on pricing. Like, it's just a good place to be,
That's cool. And kind of a random thought, I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got was from you, actually. We met in South Lake at your warehouse. And I remember you telling us that at one point your business was duct taped together. Those were like your exact words. And I remember coming out like, oh, I'm so glad that because I felt like ours was totally duct taped together.
From the outside, people are like, whoa, you've grown, this big, but.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a relief to see. Every business to some extent is duct taped together, at least initially, until you start to get a little more systematic of things. But it's nice knowing that it's okay to be duct taped together and to keep going and just keep duct taping things together and get it, keep rolling.
Yeah.
And at some point you'll put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
Which I think we're getting to that point now, but that was some nice advice.
That's awesome. I think it's a good way to end. Thanks guys for hanging out. I think this will be a cool video when we put it together, and super useful to everybody who watches it. So thanks. Well, that's it. Thanks for hanging out with us. A big thanks to Mike and Ryan for letting us hang out here at Today Dental. Thankful for them and the knowledge that they shared with us. Hopefully it was helpful. If you're looking for another video to watch right now, check this one right up here. Click on it. I think you'll like it. I'll see you in the next video.